Welcome to Lessons in Rural Community Engagement, a conversation series with Chelsey Patriss and Rosa Fernandez of the Health Equity Partnership of North Central Massachusetts. So when we talk about who's representing community groups, so when we have, for instance, we have a very large service area, a lot of rural communities. We have, 27 cities and towns, only 3 cities, so that's 24 rural communities really that we have. And when we do community engagement, for instance, our last community engagement process, we went around and we did listening sessions in multiple sub-regions, right? We did, I think, 5 sub-regions, and we did some Zooms, but really we engaged with 160 people. Mm-hmm. Over, however many thousands of people live in our region, 160 is not like, quote, representative of everyone. So I think we have to be like really conscious and careful about how we're who's representing our community groups. And sometimes it's, going into a specific region and making sure that you're getting a specific population. So we partnered with organizations in those subregions that had strong community relationships. So we partnered with an organization that served seniors, and we partnered with a town library, and we partnered with an area, a community action organization. And so they brought in their clients who trust them. And so that trust was kind of transferred to us in that situation, which is what you want, right? That's how you want to engage people. If you don't have that trust, is by that transfer of trust, that trust by proxy, because they feel comfortable in a particular environment and with a particular host organization. But you're still going to get the people who show up to everything, right? And the people who are most vocal, the people who have maybe they have a particular personal agenda that they are trying to get some attention around. And it's not always easy to identify whether a person is speaking on behalf of a large group of people who all have this concern, or whether this is kind of their personal crusade. Mm-hmm. And so understanding and trying to kind of figure out when you're doing community engagement, and not being so quick to just assume that one person's story is representative of a very large group of how these people feel, and also not dismissing it, So how do you get a good feel for whether a person's personal story is something that is representative, or whether a person's personal story is just that, a personal story?
Mm-hmm. And also, I'll speak through a cultural lens, is a lot of people pave ways for people. Tokenism was another piece, guarding against tokenism. I think a lot of people set themselves up to become a tokenism or buffer or whatever because of the history of what people had to go through to open up a space, so that way we're also invited to the table.
So when we talk about tokenism and guarding against tokenism, when you're trying to engage multiple types of populations in a community engagement experience, you have like this whole list of different populations that you're trying to engage with, and it's over time you're building relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And it can get comfortable to build relationships with 1 or 2 people who represent a population, and then to just kind of, they're your go-to, right? Anytime you need to talk about disability, you talk to this person. And anytime you need to, hear about racial injustice in general, this is your go-to person, and it's, or the LGBTQ experience or whatever. And so tokenism is something that I think it's especially common in rural communities, because there's just less diversity in some of our rural communities. So it takes so long to build relationships of trust, right, with communities and with diverse communities. And so when you have one, you kind of really treasure and hold on to that relationship. And it can be really tempting to just think of that person as the voice of a community rather than what they should be, which is like a conduit to that community. And they should be your connection to that community. And because they probably do not exist in isolation, right? They have an actual community of other people. So, like, how do you get to a point where you're not just sitting in that comfortable space of like, I just ask this person all the time?
I take a deep breath on that one because
Because we all do it.
yeah, we really do, and I think it's just important that we have that understanding that one individual that you go to at all times is not going to be the all answers to what you're trying to look for, and to for us to be more mindful of they're exhausted. They're extremely exhausted, and because they feel like they have to have an answer for all, and so it's that pressure of, oh geez, they're gonna lean on me, and if I don't do anything, it's gonna go on death's air anyway. So you feel some type of dedication and strong commitment to be that tokenism, because if not, the person who's tokenized also knows the person that is going to them don't have the other resources to go to, like,
right. So they feel this responsibility to be that voice all the time, and this fear that if they aren't that voice, there is no voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, it's really important to even to maintaining that relationship to build others and not to sit in that space, because you really are putting too much on that one person. Yeah, that's a good point. It's, not just about like having other voices and making sure that you have a diversity of.
And you could make that person who's being tokenized all the time stronger, like to avoid the tokenism. If you could bring others to the table, it doesn't all fall on that one individual, but back to that unity and solidarity. And also, we need to also give that individual that support system. That's how the BIPOC network came to place, because all these providers were in their spaces and they were the tokenism of their spaces, and they're exhausted and they don't have the resources to continue to engage the community and so forth. So if you really want to be authentic about engaging community, we got to give the supports and the tools and the resources to the individuals that are representing those organizations. I mean, the community members.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Lessons in Rural Community Engagement with the Health Equity Partnership of North Central Massachusetts, and paid for by a grant from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health through the New England Rural Health Association.